Hello, 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 hello. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're doing the listens of the month for January 2023. I got my little handy-dandy whiskey cocktail here, my Toriel. If you want to know how to make this, there's a video on my channel. So apologies if I get a little cream in my mustache. Regardless, we're here to talk about metal and other genres, because I don't just listen to heavy stuff. Without further ado, we're going to do this like usual and make myself smaller. All right, first off for January, just a little bit of a disclaimer. The first several albums here for the beginning of January were listened to on my way back from Utah. It was a road trip that me, my brother, and his girlfriend took to go see family. We listened to quite a lot of albums on the way there and back. We listened to half of the By a Thread series by the Devin Townsend Project. First listen of January was the playthrough of the Deconstruction album, and I absolutely love this album. Even the standard edition, like the studio album, is absolutely phenomenal. The musicianship is insane. The songwriting is absolutely crazy. Honestly, like Deconstruction is easily one of my favorite albums that Devin Townsend has ever put together. It's very visual. It's almost like a movie. That's how incredible the music is. Like you can just sink right into it, and you never really know what's going to happen next. As it goes more towards the end of the album, it does kind of like falter a little bit. Kind of does get a little shaky, but altogether, like the songs on this are absolutely phenomenal. Sumeria was a constant of mine for quite a long time. I think it was one of the most played songs for 2021 according to my Spotify. And I also go back to Praise the Lord so much, because like just the foundation, like to just open up the album that song crafts is genius. What can I say, honestly? Absolutely fantastic. Strongly recommend. Next, obviously the album that comes after Deconstruction, even though they were released the same day, but for the live sessions, is Ghost from the Devin Townsend Project. Of course, it was really nice hearing these songs in a live setting, obviously, and Ghost obviously delivers. It's easily one of my favorite albums that he ever put together. Very, very chilled out and relaxed, whether it be Feather or Kauai or As You Were, even Fly, the opening song, the title track, Blackberry. It's just nothing short of brilliant. It's such a peaceful, remarkable album. I can't say enough good things about it, honestly. Strongly recommend. Another one we strongly recommend is the Team Sleep album, self-titled. The only studio release they put out, regretfully, even though they have like dozens upon dozens of demos floating around in the ether, that are all just so good, honestly. Like, I fell in love with these guys back in, like, say 2016, 2017, and even though they've been around for a while and don't really do much, I really don't get tired of this album at all. It's a masterpiece. It's a work of art. It definitely takes me back to some very different times when I was just learning and growing as a young man. And it's chock full of fantastic songs. Your Skull is Red is probably my favorite, as well as King Diamond. Of course, like heart-shattering tracks like Boulevard Nights, and beautiful songs like Ever Foreign Flag, even Ataraxia, Ever Since World War One, Elizabeth. Princeton Review, there's no shortage of beauty on this album. Just really like cooped up acid trip vibes, if that makes sense. Strongly recommend, obviously. Then an even better album than that, arguably, in my opinion. This is easily one of my favorite albums of all time. Palms, self-titled. Another Chino Moreno project like Team Sleep, and Crosses, like we're about to get to that, but Palms is basically 3/5 of ISIS with Chino Moreno on vocals, and words cannot describe the emotions that this album provides for me. It's 6 tracks. All of them are rather lengthy. It's very spacey and atmospheric. It feels like you're at the beach. But it's heartsick. It's emotional. It's emotive. Really, the songs are absolutely wonderful. Like they really crafted the vibe, and I really wish they put out more music because they've only put out this album. And it's just a shame because like I can tell like there's so much more that they can do. Mission Sunset and Future Warrior are a couple of my all-time favorite songs, like top 10 arguably. I would say both of them, like they're that good. But of course, like every single track on here is fantastic. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. Yeah, strongly recommend. Give this a listen if you haven't, or if you're a fan of like anything remotely Deftones or Chino Moreno. This is literally like a must listen. This is the best thing he's ever like that he's done outside of Deftones, no question. At least in my opinion. Then we have the aforementioned Crosses. This is a combination of the first 2 EPs along with 5 new songs. For it to be that, the track listing, there's 15 songs. It's literally like a song from EP1, then EP2, then a new song. EP1, EP2, new song, and so on and so on. For them to make that work and like have the track lists be so consistent is really something to behold. Like this is a fantastic album that I strongly recommend. Very electronic, big like beats. Of course, there is guitar, and like Chino carries the whole thing. Honestly, there are just masterful songs all throughout this album. The epilogue and option are huge standouts. They're a couple of my all-time favorite songs, without question. But even songs such as The Holy Ghost, 1994, which is just crushing. Honestly, just sad. Like heart sickness, relationships, just connections. I can't even really put it into words. This album's chock full of great songs. It's one of my favorite albums ever. Moving on from there, we listened to the first EP from A Skylit Drive, She Watched the Sky. This is a really good EP. I actually got to see this entire thing played from front to back at Swanfest last year in Sacramento. It was the first show that A Skylit Drive had played in at that point, like 7 years. Even though I wasn't, nearly as into this EP back then, it was still really cool to see because it's the original vocalist and everything. As much as I prefer like their Wires and the Concept of Breathing album, it was good listening to this EP again. It's really great, and honestly, like if they build off of this sound for the future, like just this EP, I wouldn't mind it. It's really good. Then on the road trip, we literally listened to the entire VOLA catalog, and I'm very happy to talk about them here. The first EP, Homesick Machinery, really rough. Production is not nearly as good as later releases, let alone songwriting, but it's still worth a listen, especially if you're into the newer stuff. Obviously, like songs like a Rainbow are really good. Avalanche. It's a short little EP, but it's interesting to see like where they started off. A few years later, they followed that up with Monsters, a much better EP in my opinion. I Am Not Here is a fantastic song. I go back to it very often. But every single song there is good. Black Box has great, memorable like vocal hooks. Fantastic, honestly. Controllable's a decent song. Enter's a really good song as well. Good chorus. I wish these EPs weren't as overlooked, but I hope like they get a little bit more recognition in the future, especially as VOLA releases more music. Then we have their album In Mazes. This is a fantastic album. The production is crushing. It chock full of just fantastic songs. VOLA's easily like become like one of my favorite bands, honestly, and their 3 main studio releases, because this is their first full-length studio album, are among like my favorite albums of all time, like top 100, I would say. Your Mind Is a Helpless Dreamer is probably my favorite off of this track, but Stray to Skies, obviously, Starburn, just great tracks. A Stare Without Eyes, god damn, dude. Gutter Moon, the title track. There's nothing short of greatness on here, for sure. I would strongly recommend this. Then after that, naturally, we have the Applause of a Distant Crowd album. This is my favorite VOLA release. This is such a great album, whether it be just like from beginning to end. There's really no tracks like I don't care about, aside from maybe Green Scream Mother. I don't really care about that song, but just fantastic tracks throughout. We Are Thin Air, Smart Friend, Alien Shivers, Still, the title track, Whaler, Ruby Pool, which is just gorgeous. The song Ghosts, I think it is. Like, if it didn't have that little, like, intro, because that intro really throws me off, which is a shame because, like, the whole rest of the song is great. Like, let's give this album a listen, honestly. Strongly recommend. Then their latest release, put out 2 years ago at this point, Witness. This is another album that's just chock full of great songs. Sure, maybe, like, some of the weaker-ish songs are, like, maybe Freak and Future Bird, but there's still great songs with something to behold within them. Just personally, they're not tracks I go back to often, but, like, from a front-to-back listen, this is amazing. This is a fantastic album. Strongly recommend, obviously. I remember hearing the first single, Head Mounted Sideways, for the first time, and just the slow, just open notes of the final breakdown, and when it came in again, just like dodo. The F sharp. I can really go on and on about this album. Straight Lines, These Black Claws, that like have a rap. It has a rap verse in it, and it just works so well. It's so groovy, and like the breakdown riff is so fun to play on guitar. It's so groovy. Like VOLA grooves like very few other bands. They do it so well, and they're so underrated. Give them a listen. That's their whole catalog right there. Can't wait for new music. They're great. Moving on from there, I finished the Typo Negative catalog, even though I do need to go back and listen to The Origin of the Feces. We have their album Dead Again. Now, this is really, even though it's their final album, it's pretty awesome, honestly. It's like a culmination of everything that they've done in their career. Like, there's something for everyone when it comes to their catalog. Like, fans of, like, whatever album it is, they pull a lot from their past, and there's a lot to like on this album. I'll never forget, there's this local college radio station that doesn't exist anymore, which is a shame. I think it was 90.5 The Edge, and it was based out of Concord or Berkeley, because I'm in California, and they would play like the entirety of the song The Prophet of Doom, and that to this day is one of my favorite Typo Negative tracks. But yeah, this is a good solid album to mark the end of the career, even though it was premature. It was released 3 years before the death of Peter Steele, but still a really good album front to back. So Witness was the last album that we listened to before we got home from Utah. I listened to this the next day, so this is just the rest of the month. It's hard to believe this was less than a month ago. I went ahead and went back because for whatever reason we didn't listen to any of the encores, but I listened to each of the encores from by a thread, because on each night, all 4 nights, they played extra songs from the back catalog of Devin Townsend. And it was quite a treat, honestly. Just wanted to shout that out here because Devin doesn't really have that much bad music like whatsoever. Like the man is an absolute genius, and there's no shortage of amazing music from him. I also felt nostalgic, so I went ahead and revisited the greatest hits album from Def Leppard called Vault. My parents had this album as I was growing up, and we would listen to it pretty regularly, honestly. It was a favorite of theirs, and it's still a favorite of mine to this day. Like, I absolutely love, like, as much as, like, okay, so there are, like, songs that have gotten old, like Pour Some Sugar on Me, but tracks like Photograph are still great to go back to. Animal, Let's Get Rocked, even. Rocket, Rock of Ages. But honestly, some powerful moments for me that are just like, that I feel in my core, like Love Bites, or the acoustic version of Two Steps Behind. Yeah, there's really no shortage of good songs on here. I mean, because obviously it's their greatest hits album that was put out in the mid-90s, as far as I know. Yeah, it's really good. Or one of my all-time favorites, Hysteria. Like, the production. Yeah, anyway. Then I went ahead and revisited a Slayer classic, Seasons in the Abyss. The purpose of this was to like figure out if it really was my favorite Slayer album, and not God Hates Us All. And this pretty much solidified it. God Hates Us All is probably my favorite. But this album obviously isn't short of great tracks. War Ensemble, I still think is just absolutely kick-ass to this day. Blood Red, Spirit in Black, come on, that is a killer song. Dead Skin Mask, obviously the title track. There's some songs I don't care about too much, like Expendable Youth, Skeletons of Society. Temptation's pretty neat, Born of Fire, Hollow Point. Yeah, this is a classic, honestly. Like when it comes to thrash, this is fantastic, honestly. But moving on from there, we got the second Hatebreed album, Perseverance. So I'm sort of kind of giving their discography a re-listen, and this might be my favorite release for them. Proven, the title track, I Will Be Heard. This album, from front to back, is chock full of absolute bangers. Like, it genuinely gets me pumped up, and it's fantastic. I gave Eternal Blue a re-listen from Spirit Box. It was a really good album. I realized how much I absolutely love the song The Summit. So I've been having that one on repeat for some time now. It's really great. Honestly, the whole album front to back is really consistent. It's just performed really well. There's a lot of stuff that really sticks with you, like that. It's really good to go back to. Holy Roller is still a killer track. Circle With Me, Constance, We Live in a Strange World, the title track. A lot of good stuff here, honestly. Hurt You is another one. Moving on from there. We have a little EP from See You Space Cowboy. It's called Sure Disaster. The title track of which I think is a collab with If I Die First. Just really friggin' energetic, sassy, just gnarly metalcore that goes harder than a bag of bricks, and like it's just completely chaotic, and it's performed so well. Yeah, it's just me getting the move on with See You Space Cowboy's catalog. And I'm happy to do so because it's fantastic. Then I gave Moth Gatherer's Esoteric Oppression a re-listen. It's still really fantastic. It's like ISIS walked so these guys could run. I need to listen to some more of their stuff. I wasn't too hot on re-listening to this whole thing. It doesn't mean that there's not quality tracks here, for sure. Utopia is still an absolute banger. Like, just the moodiness and like the outro breakdown. There's a lot of good stuff on here, and it's crafted really well. It's written really well. The build-ups and payoffs. These guys really know what they're doing. I'm excited to see what else they got. Then we got Pussifer and their live rendition of the entire Conditions of My Parole album. But it's not in order. It's not in succession. It's the songs are kind of jumbled around a bit, but they do make it work. I'm really happy that they did this series where they're doing these albums like a good like revisit and doing them justice. This means I gotta listen to Via's Vagina next. But Conditions of My Parole is not only my favorite Pussifer album, it's one of my all-time favorite albums. Every single song is, at the very least, great, if not amazing. I love Tiny Monsters. I love Green Valley. The Weaver is easily one of my favorites. Telling Ghosts. I didn't like the performance of Monsoons on here as much, nearly as the studio version, but other tracks on here that are just great for live performances, like Horizons and the title track and This Is My Parole, are just really, really good, honestly. Man Overboard is another standout. Obviously, Toma is a great song to be played live. Yeah, honestly, strongly recommend. Then I gave a revisit to this deathcore classic, the first full-length studio release from Make Them Suffer, Neverbloom. I intend to go through their catalog again because I haven't really heard any of their newer stuff. I think the last album I listened to was Worlds Apart when it was brand new. Guilty. This was them really just trying to find a sound. It's like just very, very symphonic. It's sort of kind of one-dimensional, but the songs are quality enough to where like this is definitely a classic in the genre. The title track, Weeping Wastelands, Widower, Maelstrom, just lots of great stuff on here, without a doubt. Then I listened to Amigo the Devil's first album, Volume 1, and I've been meaning to actually dive into all his stuff since I saw him and his band at Aftershock. And yeah, I absolutely love him. There's a whole bunch of great songs on here. Perfect Wife, Hell and You, fantastic. I actually saw the music video for Hell and You while I went to an after party, to do some nasal drugs and drink and whatnot. And YouTube was going, and the music video for Hell and You was playing on there. And it just so happened to be a week before Aftershock when Amigo was playing. And lo and behold, he actually does blow himself. He has a song called Cocaine and Abel, and he's mentioned use of the drug in a few songs and whatnot. It's not quite bluegrass, but it's not quite country either, and it's not quite southern rock. It's a culmination of all these things, and there's a tongue-in-cheekness to it. Really interesting stuff. I look forward to continuing his discography. After that, we got Daft Punk's Discovery. I don't know if it's celebrated a birthday or what, but I just felt compelled to give it a re-listen because it genuinely is one of the best albums ever made. And it's just firing on all cylinders from front to back. Every single song is great, so I clearly strongly recommend giving this a listen. It still sounds super fresh today, despite coming out in 2001. It really was ahead of its time. One More Time sounds like it could have came out in 2008, 2009. No joke, it would have fit right in. No shortage of greatness on this album. If you haven't heard this, you're really doing yourself a disservice. It's a fantastic release. Then we have what is only barely, slightly my favorite Gojira album, just ahead of From Mars to Sirius, their 2008 release, The Way of All Flesh. This album is tight, it's dark, the guitar tone is just to die for, honestly. What really sets this above any other Gojira release for me are the songs Adoration for None, which is my favorite Gojira track, and The Art of Dying. Just remarkable album, just heavy and technical. Really, I can't even put it to words. It's such a fantastic album from front to back. There's really no bad songs on it whatsoever. Strongly recommend. Then we have the Snuffed on Sight EP. These guys are it's hard to say. They're hardcore, they're death metal, they're slam, and they're pretty funny. I saw these guys back in April of last year, and God, do they put on a show. These guys are really heavy. It's a 4-song EP. I believe it's a self-titled, obviously. Yeah. And just check it out, honestly. If you're into slam or hardcore death metal, that vein of death metal that fuses with hardcore, even though I don't really think it's suitable to call it deathcore, yeah, check it out. Then we have an album by a band called Strong Arm, The Advent of a Miracle. An E standard album, and even though it's in standard, it really does go hard. There are a lot of really emotive moments, as well as just parts that are absolutely relentless. It's hard to really just pin down the sound of this album, but these guys were recommended by a podcast called Discography Discussion, so I decided to check it out. And it's definitely worth a listen. I'm glad it was recommended to me. I definitely did get something out of it, that's for sure. Then we have me finally continuing on with Unearth's discography. Their 2011 release, Darkness in the Light. Jesus. This album goes so hard. I was really blown away. I can't believe I've been just slacking because I love Unearth. But I've yet to really complete their catalog. And this album really blew me away. It was consistent. There was really no hiccups in the track list whatsoever. It was very consistent, very punchy. The guitar work is absolutely amazing. The breakdowns they go so hard. I strongly recommend this one. It is pretty much an essential metalcore release for sure. Then I gave a listen to Cerebral Bore's Maniacal Miscreation, And this was pretty much like suggested by a mutual friend. I have a group chat, and this was sent, and it's really good, like tech def, and it's female fronted, and I didn't even like pick up on that first until I looked them up, and they're not even around anymore. But just the vocals are absolutely killer. The songs go so hard. Like I couldn't really believe like how awesome like a lot of the riffs and transitions were. This is a great listen for sure. Then we have the first debut First Blood album, California. This isn't my favorite First Blood release, but honestly, like it is kind of like their quintessential album. Whether it be the title track or Next Time I See You, You're Dead, or favorites of mine like Conspiracy and Victim, Suffocate, Tides, Regimen. This is just a great straight up hardcore release, and they really do go on to do bigger and better things. But it is like pretty much an essential California hardcore listen for sure. Then we have the first Fit for an Autopsy album. I've been meaning to go through these guys' discography for a while, but the process of human extermination is what it's called. And yeah, it really does like really fit that mold of early 2010s deathcore. This is definitely for fans of say like Carnifex and All Shall Perish. Maybe Job for a Cowboy as well. It really does fit that mold, and it's a good listen. Honestly, I wasn't really disappointed with it at all. I look forward to seeing them in March. Then we have the Full of Hell album, Rudiments of Mutilation. A very disturbing release, as evident by the album art here. And I anticipate the rest of their catalog to be that way, because I'm making my way through it right now. Very abrasive, very brutal stuff. I will also be seeing these guys with Fit for an Autopsy, as well as the Acacia Strain, and another band that we're going to get to very soon. Then Nails in their debut full length, Unsilent Death. I mean, you call it full length, but it's only 14 minutes long. From front to back, no shortage of brutality, heaviness, epicness, just relentless songwriting. I can go on and on about how fantastic this album is, but just go listen to it. Strongly recommend. Then we have Alice in Chains with Black Gives Way to Blue, their first album with William Duvall, and it's really good. Honestly, like this is quality Alice in Chains. So many great songs on here. The title track, All Secrets Known, even Check My Brain is really good. Your Decision, easily one of my favorite Alice in Chains songs. But heavy tracks too, like A Looking in View, Acid Bubble, and even songs like I'm a complete sucker for When the Sun Rose Again. Chock full of great songs like throughout this album for sure. We have the Burn the Priest album. So this is Lamb of God before Lamb of God, and it's really heavy. Like it's borderline death metal. There's a lot of cool ass grooves throughout this entire release. Just great tracks, honestly. Like some really cool parts. It's like Chronic Auditory Hallucination, Demera, Lives of Autumn, Resurrection Number 9, Buckeye, Goatfish, Dwayne. Lots of really great songs on this. I kind of wish they would revisit this era a little bit, because there's a lot of tracks that really do go hard. Then we have the first Black Label Society album, Sonic Brew. Give it a re-listen, because I mean, the album is kind of forgettable. There's not too much in terms of standout tracks compared to their later material, so like it's no wonder I revisited this thing. I do like songs like Bored to Tears and Born to Lose, Lowdown. Spoke in the Wheel is good, Black Pearl. Other than that, it's okay. Then we have the latest, even though it's been a few years at this point, Infant Annihilator with the Infant Annihilator. Infant Annihilator with the Battle of Yaldabaoth is, I think that's how you pronounce it. Yaldabaoth, I think. Better than I remember. It really goes hard. It's absolutely insane. The technical proficiency is to be just completely admired, no matter who you are or what kind of metal you're into. It's super brutal throughout the entire thing. Really funny in a way too. Like the title track, they bring on Alex Tayon from Black Tongue, who are it's their other band. Black Tongue does vocals throughout the song, but before like what's supposed to be this massive crushing breakdown is just not even a breakdown. It's like this quiet, filtered, just cheap, weak, silly, I guess, breakdown. It's just really funny. Really good album, honestly. And then I think this is while I was making dinner, but my brother put on this album, Amberlin Cities. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. This album really takes me back, honestly. Introduced by my dad, who was introduced to it by an ex-girlfriend of his, and it's just so good. Every single song is so great. Strongly recommend. It's very much like power rock, like alternative rock. Real just great stuff throughout this entire album, whether it be the songs Godspeed or Hello Alone, Reclusion, Inevitable, just gorgeous. This Man Wore Paraffin, Unwinding a Cable Car. I could go on and on about this. Same with this album. This is a post-rock album I discovered by accident. Saudade by a band called I.O. Standout tracks to me are Anna, name of my ex, Weatherfields, Bait and Switch, Noise Floor. Really great songs. It's all instrumental. It's just soaked in reverb, but it does add a quality to it that it is really, really, really nice, honestly. Yeah, strongly recommend. I also strongly recommend this one. This is a comeback album from A Perfect Circle. First album, 14 years, released back in 2018. Eat the Elephant. It's quality stuff, honestly. Like, I really don't think it should be overlooked whatsoever because it's just that damn good. Whether it be Disillusioned or The Contrarian, So Long, Thanks for the Fish. Like, it is so catchy. It's easy to go back to that one often. Same with Delicious. Like, that one I feel is very, very overlooked. Hourglass, Feathers, Talk. Goodness gracious. I kind of wish they didn't have to redo Buyin' Down. On this, it's called Buyin' Down the River, but I think the original version is far superior, especially when it comes to the drums. Strongly recommend regardless. This is that band I was talking about, Primitive Man, Scorn. I listened to the deluxe version of this. These guys will be playing with the Acacia Strain, Fit for an Autopsy, and Full of Hell, and I can't wait. These guys, their music is so disturbing and just crushing, low-tuned, just indescribably just dark. Gonna be interesting for sure. Then we have Mac Miller and his mixtape Faces. Strongly recommend this one. I listened to this one more than once. I listened to the streaming version and then the version that is uncut with all the samples in the songs maintained, because a lot of the like movie samples and stuff had to be cut out and all that. This is my favorite Mac Miller release. I absolutely love this mixtape to death. It's very vulnerable, it's very honest, and like the beats are just incredible. The production is fantastic. This thing is chock full of great beats, great verses. Colors and Shapes is remarkable. I love the track Wedding and Diablo. The beats are great. Friends is probably my favorite aside from Colors and Shapes. Here We Go is great. The bonus track, Yeah. My goodness gracious. Grand Finale, Rain, Happy Birthday. It's a very long mixtape, but it's definitely worth a listen. Strongly recommend. Then we have the first release from Sleep Token, their EP1. Since they're creating such a buzz, I figured I'd start getting into their stuff. And this was really good. It establishes their sound early on. Real soft, and then it breaks into these like really heavy passages. Really interesting, and I look forward to continuing their stuff. And I finally gave a re-listen to Government Plates from Death Grips, and geez, there are just moments on this release that they just go so hard. I'm Overflow and Bonnie. Just really weird moments too, like the title track and Birds, Whatever I Want, Who's Watching. But the Best song on this album that ended up being my most played song, I think. Well, actually, no, I think it was like my third most played song in 2021. The first track, You Might Think He Loves You for Your Money, but I Know What He Really Loves You For. It's Your Brand New Leopard Skin Pillbox Hat. Yes, that's the whole song name. It goes unbelievably hard. Can't wait to listen to it again. Even though I did revisit a few of the tracks more than once in January after listening to it, that's for sure. Then we have Fit for an Autopsy, Hellbound. This is them like kind of just solidifying their craft, and it's a really good album, honestly, front to back. I remember a couple tracks from way back in the day, so it was nice to revisit them for sure. Yeah, moving on from there, we have Zakk Wylde and his solo album, Book of Shadows. My buddy James, him and I are working on a grindcore project, and we always talk about music and whatnot. Or even interested in starting like a more like southern, like bluesy, country bluegrass kind of project. He says that this is his favorite thing that Zakk Wylde ever did, in his opinion, and it's respectable. I can see why. This is very much like a acoustic album. It's got a southern flair to it. It's very southern rock, like almost country-esque. It's like if a lot of his like ballads from Black Label Society were increased on the southern factor like twofold and put into an album. Like there's definitely a whole lot of quality here, like for sure. All right, then we have Flogging Molly and their album Speed of Darkness. So I've been meaning to listen to more of their catalog. I mean, St. Patrick's Day isn't too far away. Gotta feel festive. This is the album that they put out after their album Float, which I'm very familiar with and like a lot. And I can really tell on this one that it was not very inspired at all. I didn't really get much out of it. The title track is really good. There are a couple good songs here and there. But a lot of it I just really wasn't feeling at all. It was very lackluster and kind of uninspired. Like the instrumentals here and there are like really nice. They're really good. But the vocals, lyrics, not as much as previous releases, unfortunately. So I wasn't feeling this one nearly as much as other ones. So I do not recommend this one. I do not. This one's not the best either, but I did get enough out of it to where like, okay, this is all right. Soulfly's album 3. Still making my way through Soulfly's discography. First couple songs are really good, really pack a punch. There were really a couple weird songs in the middle of the album. Wasn't feeling too much. Some moments I didn't really care for too much, but it's not terrible, honestly. There's enough here to be like, okay, it's all right. But more from Max Cavalera. I've been looking forward to giving this one a taste. NAILBOMB with Point Blank. This was put out in between Chaos AD and Roots from Max's time in Sepultura. And this one's really interesting, honestly. Like it's like if you combine like Godflesh with like Ministry and a little bit of Sepultura, this is a really just heavy and riffy and abrasive album. Even though it's very electronic and sampley, it's very, very much heavy and just in your face. And there's a really punky attitude to this album as well that I really appreciate. Moving on from there, I'm not even going to try to even say these guys' name. Too many words. I don't feel like looking it up right now. But it starts with XAVLEGBMA. Yeah, anyway, they have a Facebook page, and they're really funny, and they don't take themselves too seriously. It's their EP Gore, just bare bones, straight up slam, straight up death metal. Yeah, what you see is what you get. Like that's their whole logo right there. All right, then we have Eminem's EP Refill. It's basically tacked on to the end of Relapse. When Relapse came out, I ended up getting the album myself, and it came with the Refill EP. It's a decent little EP. Like honestly, like the songs are pretty good. I'm still making my way again through Eminem's discography. About to get into his 2010 stuff, which I'm not nearly as familiar with. So yeah, it's really interesting going back through again. Like there are a couple really good songs on here though. Like Hell Breaks Loose is a banger. Drop the Bomb on them. I don't think Forever is aged very well, but yeah, I digress. So look what we have here. Entombed in their first album, Left Hand Path. This is my first time listening to it, and damn, this is really good. Like, honestly, I could see how this was so friggin' influential on the death metal scene. This is pretty like quintessential old school like death metal right here. I quite enjoyed it. From what I hear, they didn't really stick to this sound, so I don't know about continuing their discography, but it was definitely worth checking out for sure. Then we have a band called Moment of Truth, and I can't remember exactly if this is an online friend of mine's project or just something that he's like super into and promotes a whole lot. Moment of Truth and their EP A Call Beyond. Very much in the same vein of like slammy hardcore death metal, and it delivers for sure, like without any doubt at all whatsoever. And this EP celebrated the birthday, and I absolutely love this EP to death. I really can't get enough of it. Love Rotten Apple, love Nutshell. I Stay Away, No Excuses. Even Don't Follow is just like, ooh, okay. Yeah, Alice in Chains with their Jar of Flies EP. First ever EP to hit #1 on Billboard. Yeah, it turned 28. After that, we got the newest EP from Crosses, Permanent Radiance. Gave it a first time listen, I think back in November, December. I forget when it came out. But re-listened to it again, and it's still really damn good. The songs that stand out most to me are obviously like Sensation and Vivian, the singles. But Day One is just like so uplifting and happy and just charming. Yeah, it's a really good EP, and I'm really happy that they've finally put out more music. All right, just a few more. More of the Angel, Gateways to Annihilation. Very solid album from front to back. Really consistent. Like they like the first full song alone was just like, yeah, just pummeling stuff. Yeah, real dark and heavy. I remember liking it. Like I don't remember too much from it, but like it was consistent enough and like thematically gratifying to where like, oh yeah, this is a really solid death metal release for sure. As far as I know, it's all downhill from here, but we'll get there at some point, I guess. Then we have Joji's newest album /EP/whatever, Smithereens, and listened to this on the way to a rave recently with a friend, and it's real good, real sad boy stuff, but I don't mind it whatsoever. It's Joji. I absolutely love Joji to death. Glimpse of Us is easily one of his most just heart-wrenching songs, like one of his best for sure. Die for You and Before the Day is Over are a couple of my favorites of his as well. Yeah, absolutely love this thing. Even though it feels a lot like it doesn't really feel too complete. There are some moments I don't really care for. It's something. So then, oh man, we have Lingua Ignota with Caligula. I just woke up recently and decided that it's finally time to give this thing a listen, because I'm really curious to see as to what the hype is and just how dark this album really is. And it really is something. This album, even though I strongly recommend it, it is not for the faint of heart. It dives deep into abuse and trauma, and the singing is just unreal. It's on point. It's expressive in a way I have rarely ever heard ever. I believe her name is Kirsten. If it was to be anyone to like deliver a eulogy for the world, and also oversee its destruction, it would be her. Like, that's how just powerful these songs are. I mean, I'm at a loss for words, honestly. It's just that good, honestly. Looking forward to hearing the follow-up pretty soon. But yeah, strongly recommend. Then last one, we have Isom with Cosmic Drone. Their first album, I've talked extensively about them enough. Strongly recommend Cosmic Drone. That's what the album sounds like. Give it a listen. That is January, folks. All right. So if you enjoyed, or if you listened to any of these albums, tell me what you thought of them. I'd really like to know your thoughts. So comment them down below, and also subscribe, and also like, and also I'll see you in the next one. Or not. It just doesn't matter. As long as you enjoy.